Welcome back, my dear students. Finally, we have reached the quadratic formula. Yay! I know y'all are so excited. This is lesson 71, and so I'm going to present to you the quadratic formula and tell you what it means. We've been completing the square or factoring. Sometimes though, completing the square takes forever. And we complete the square because we can't factor the problem, right? So there's another solution to completing the square, and it's faster than completing the square. It takes much less math, and it is the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula looks like this. And it is something that you're just going to have to memorize. Write it down on the back of your notebook because it just is a fact. You just have to know the formula and be able to do the math with it. There's no other way around it. Now, how do we get A, B, and C, these variables? Where do those terms come from? If you have a formula, and we're just going to jump into 71.2, not a formula, but an equation, 3x squared minus 2x plus 5 equals 0. Okay, you know how before with completing the square, if we had a lead coefficient, we would have to divide everything by the lead coefficient, then we'd have to find the square. It was tedious, right? It was a long drawn out system. With the quadratic formula, you do not have to get rid of the lead coefficient. You can just use it as it is. So what you do is you make sure that your terms are lined up by the power, the exponent of the x, just like normal in descending order of the x exponent. And then all you do is you just write this little letter. You know that this is A, this is B, and this is C. And whatever sign it has in front of it, that is the sign for that value. So then all you're going to do is you're going to drop these values in to this formula. And it's always this formula. It never changes. So what we do is we say that x is equal to negative, and b is a negative 2, okay, plus or minus the square root of, all right, there's that b value again, squared, minus 4 times a is 3, and c is 5, okay? All of that is over 2 times 3. Now you just solve it, and you're done. No big hoops to jump through. So then x is equal to, the negative of a negative is positive 2 plus or minus, and then we just go through the steps here. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4 minus 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 5 is 60. Okay, all over 6. So that's going to be x is equal to 2 plus or minus, and 4 minus 60 is going to be a negative 56 over 6. Right? Okay, so right away, let's see if we can do anything about 56, negative 56. All right, so first of all, oh goodness, it moved on me. Did I turn touch off? There it goes. I forgot to turn touch off. Sorry, my bad. That's why it's flying all over the place and making you dizzy. Here we go. All right, now we're back where we started. I have my little notepad here, my tablet. I didn't have touch turned off. Okay, so that was the problem. Sorry. So we've got to simplify the square root of negative 56 So we have the negative 1, right? And then we have 56 is 7 times 8. So that's going to be 4 times 2, right? So we can pull that out and put a 2 in front. So it's going to be 2, and then we have 7 times 2 is 14, and the square root of negative 1 is I. So we can say that this is x is equal to 2 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 14 with an I to the outside over 6. But guess what? We can reduce this. So we can say x is equal to 1 over 3 plus or minus the square root of 14i over 3. And the reason I did this is because you can divide 2 by 2, get 1, and we can divide 6 by 2 and get 3. You can still put it all over the same if you wanna. It's perfectly fine. You can write it just like this. 1 plus or minus the square root of 14i all over 3. It's the same thing. I don't know why it separated it in the book, because it started all together. So I don't know why it did that. But anyway, that is so much faster than trying to do the square and trying to do, getting rid of your lead coefficient and all the other stuff. You just, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. Finished. All right. That was 71.1. Let's do one more. 71.2. I'm just going to erase this and leave the quadratic equation up there. (71.2), and we are going to have this equation. All right, right off the bat, what's the first thing we need to do? Yes, you are correct. We need to put it in the proper order. Very good. Those of you that said that should be proud. You already are on board. Now, what is the missing number here? Whatever is our invisible number, it's 1. That's what's going to be our A. So A, B, and C. All right. Let's drop it in. So I'm going to do that here. X is equal to, let me write it out. All right, so I dropped in all of our values. We have B value, B value, A value, A value, C value. If you can remember, here's how I remember it. I rearranged it in my head, right? And I remember it like this. I remember B, A, C. I remember the word back. If you don't get this right, it's back to the drawing board. But if you can remember the word back, then you can get these in the right order. All right? That helps me. It might not help you, but if I line it up in my head, I can see which variables go with what, and it works out. I got the B's in the front, A's in the middle, C on the end. All right, so whatever you need to do to help you remember that, do that. All right, so let's move on. I've dropped everything in. B, B, A, C. Now we're going to do the math. So go ahead and pause the video and do the math, and then I'll pop the next step up and see if you're right. Just do the next step and see if you're right. All right, here's what I got for the next step. Negative times negative is a positive. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. And then I got negative times a positive times a negative, so it's a positive 112. 2 times 1 is 2. All right, pause, do the next step, and let's check it. All right, you should have gotten 3 plus or minus 121 over 2. Okay, now you're going to simplify this square root. So pause it and then check it. So we get x is equal to 3 plus or minus 11 over 2. So if we do this, we get 3 plus 11 is 14 over 2. So x could be 7. So x equals 7. And if we do 3 minus 11, we get that x is equal to negative 8 over 2, which is a negative 4. So it could be 7 or x could be negative 4. And there's our solution set. All right, so if you can, take it all the way through to an actual integer. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. You just have to follow it until you can't follow it anymore, until you can't get a solution. If you get stuck at a radical, you get stuck at a radical. And, you know, it might end up looking like something like this. If it does, it does. But if you can get it this far, then you can actually get a solution set that you can type in much more easily. And if you do get to a solution set like this, in Jupyter, you just want to type it in 7, negative 4. No big deal. All right. And that's all we have for lesson 71. It was just the quadratic formula. This is something that you need to write in the back cover of your notebook because you are going to use it about 1,000,000 times. From now on, you're going to have a problem like this on your weekly test. So you need to write it down for reference and or memorize it. All right. I will see you guys in lesson 72.